The Wailing is a South Korean horror movie, and it is one of the most terrifying and captivating horror movies of all times. The entire movie takes place in a small town in South Korea where multiple brutal murders start taking place after a Japanese man comes, leading the villagers to become insane and brutally murder their families. I hope you enjoy your time here. Let's get started. One early morning, Officer Jong-gu got ready to go to a crime scene of a woman and her husband murdered in the town. During the investigation, the police found the accused in a completely shocked state with boils and rashes covering his whole body. They also found a shrine with lit candles at the place where the husband was murdered. Officers Oh Sung-bak and Jong-gu were talking that night at the police station, where Officer Oh Sung-bak told Jong-gu that all these strange murders started happening after the Japanese stranger arrived in the town. But Officer Jong-gu dismissed him, saying it's all a hearsay. Suddenly the electricity went dead and they saw a woman without clothes staring at them from the window in the rain and disappeared. In the next crime scene, Officer Jong-gu arrived and saw a house burned down and a woman acting hysterical, screaming and crying, and eventually attacking him. There he saw the Japanese stranger standing amongst the crowd, staring at the woman and then at him. Later the next day, Officer Jong-gu's friend, Deok-gi, told him that the woman was assaulted by the Japanese stranger, and after that she went crazy, walking around without clothes with boils and rashes all over her body. Officer Jong-gu somehow got convinced that something was not right about all the murders and decided to start investigating with Officer Oh Sung-bak. And while they were discussing how to go about the investigation at the crime scene, there was a girl sitting nearby and was continuously throwing stones at them. Officer Oh Sung-bak left the scene, leaving Officer Jong-gu alone with the girl. They started having a conversation, and the girl took Jong-gu inside the burnt house and narrated how the family members were killed, and also informed him that the Japanese stranger is a ghost and the perpetrator. Officer Jong-gu asked the girl to stay where she was and excused himself to call Officer Oh Sung-bak, telling him to come as he found a witness. After the phone call, when he came back, he could not find the girl, so he went looking around the burnt house for her. As he opened the back door, he saw the Japanese stranger eating a dead animal. As the Japanese stranger approached him, he woke up from a bad dream, screaming. Just then his wife entered the room and informed him that his daughter was sick and running a high fever. Officers Jong-gu and Oh Sung-bak, with the help of another guy named Byong, who had once seen the Japanese stranger eating a dead venison in the jungle, decided to go to the Japanese stranger's house up in the mountain. But before reaching the house, Byong was struck by a lightning and he was brought to the hospital. While in the hospital, both the officers witnessed a brutal death of a guy. Both of them decided to go back to the Japanese stranger's house again the next day to investigate. Officer Jong-gu and Officer Oh Sung-bak, along with his nephew, a Japanese-speaking deacon, went to the Japanese stranger's house. They discover a shrine with pictures of the victims and their belongings. After a confrontation with the Japanese stranger and his guard dog, they left the place. In the car, Officer Oh Sung-bak told Officer Jong-gu that the Japanese stranger is the culprit and he is the one taking the victims' belongings and killing them. He also showed Officer Jong-gu a shoe that belonged to his daughter Hyojin. Back at home, Officer Jong-gu's daughter's condition became worse, with symptoms similar to those of the others infected. The next day, Officer Jong-gu went back to the stranger's house with the deacon, but found that the evidence has been burned. Infuriated, he smashed up the shrine, killed the guard dog, and ordered the stranger to leave the village. The following day, Officer Jong-gu's family found a bloodied body of a slain goat hanging in front of their front gate. Later, his daughter Hyojin stabbed and gravely hurt a neighbor when the family was away attending to Officer Jong-gu, who got sick. Officer Jong-gu's mother-in-law hired a shaman to treat Hyojin. According to the shaman, Hyojin is possessed by an evil spirit. The shaman tried to exorcise but was unable to. so he prepared a death hex ritual after learning that Officer Jong-gu disturbed the Japanese stranger whom he claimed to be a demon and instructed Jong-gu he must not be interrupted. The Japanese stranger also prepared a ritual at the same time to reanimate and possess the body of a dead victim. Hyojin experienced excruciating pain as the shaman's ritual progressed. Officer Jong-gu stopped the ritual and took his daughter to the hospital instead. Officer Jong-gu decided to take matters in his own hands. He and his friends went looking for the Japanese stranger at his house. The now reanimated dead corpse attacked them as they were searching his home, giving the stranger time to hide. Officer Jong-gu saw the stranger hiding and they all started pursuing him. The stranger managed to hide hanging on a cliff and they all left as they could not find him. While hiding, the stranger noticed Mumayon, the girl who warned Jong-gu about the Japanese stranger, staring at him from a distance. While Officer Jong-gu and his friends were driving back in the rain, the stranger landed on the windshield of their car. Seeing that it was the Japanese stranger, they threw his body off the cliff and the girl, Mumayon, watched them from a distance. Officer Jong-gu's daughter seemed to be better when he went to the hospital to see her. The shaman went to Officer Jong-gu's house to see him but met the girl Mumayon there, where his nose started bleeding and throwing up blood. The girl warned him and told him to go away. He was terrified and rushed to his chamber to light a candle, but when the flame went out he became frightened and left the town. In the meantime, the injured deacon learned that his uncle, Officer Sungbak, killed his landlady, and at the same time Officer Jong-gu's sick daughter Hyojin disappeared. While searching for his daughter, Jong-gu met the girl Mumayon and she told him that the Japanese stranger is still alive and she has laid a trap for him, but if he goes home before the rooster crows 3 times, his sick daughter will kill everyone and the trap will fail. The shaman, according to girl Mumayon, is merely the demon's puppet. The shaman called Jong-gu to tell him that the girl Mumayon is the true demon and the Japanese stranger was a shaman attempting to stop her. Confused, Jong-gu asked her if she was a ghost or a person. She responded in a cryptic manner. Jong-gu also noticed his daughter's hairpin fallen nearby and the girl sporting the victim's personal belongings. Thinking that the girl is the culprit, he rushed home before the rooster crowed the 3rd time. The floral trap that the girl laid withered the moment he entered his home. Meanwhile, the deacon went to the stranger's house and there, he found a secret cave nearby and as he went inside he found the Japanese stranger. He confronted him and asked him about his true form and told him he thinks he is a demon. He told the Japanese stranger that if he is proven wrong, then he will leave him. Hearing this, the Japanese stranger started laughing hysterically and told him he is the one who won't let him leave. The Japanese stranger started clicking picture of the deacon as he stood frozen looking at him transforming into a demon. As Officer Jong-gu went inside his house, he found his wife and mother-in-law brutally killed by his daughter. He called out for her, but she did not respond. The shaman came to Officer Jong-gu's house and clicked pictures of the brutal murders. As he returned to his car, he dropped a box filled with photos of the murdered victims that the Japanese stranger claimed to have burned. As Officer Jong-gu lay dying, he remembered all the good times they had and reassured her that he will protect her. Thank you for watching. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell for amazing movie summaries every week.